Okay, I'll go on. Today's session is on training and development. Training and development, T&D, is a vital function of human resource management. So these are the objectives. Indeed, I expect to do 2 sessions on training and development. This is the first session. Objectives relating to the first session are 4. So you can see now the 4 objectives which are expected by me from you to achieve. After studying the session successfully, you should be able to define what training and development is, identify differences between training and development, explain why T&D is necessary and the importance of T&D, and understand learning, learning curves, and learning principles. First, definition. Have a serious look at this definition, read it, and try to understand. So it is defined as the human resource management function that formally and systematically provides new learning to increase employees' capabilities so as to increase their current job performance and future job performance as well. So it is indeed a human resource management function. So that involves a formal and systematic attempt to give a new learning to the employees in order to increase their capabilities, their abilities, for the purpose of increasing their current job performance as well as future job performance. It will contribute to achieve individual employee goals and organizational goals as well. So therefore, of course, you know that employees have individual goals. Indeed, the organization has its goals. So in order to achieve both goals, training and development will contribute. It is a function that will give capabilities to employees so that they will be able to perform their jobs successfully. They will be able to perform their jobs successfully. Okay. Try to understand this figure. Training and development provides systematically and formally new learning to employees to increase their capabilities, their abilities, so as to increase their job performance, of course, which is current job performance and also future job performance. Current job performance as well as future job performance. So under training and development, we want to increase current job performance, also future job performance, through increasing their capabilities, employee capabilities. So therefore, this figure is a figure that shows the definition, of T&D, training and development. Okay. Now the difference between training and development. So remember, Here there are two terms, training and development. Training and development, there are two terms. Even though there are two terms, we use this as one function. As one function, of course, we can consider these two as two separate functions of HRM, but usually, traditionally, we consider training and development together. So therefore, we have here one word, a singular term, even though we can use these two terms as a plural term. The training is one function, development is another function. However, we can differentiate between training and development. We can differentiate between training and development. So if we want to emphasize the difference between training and development, then we can consider these two terms as two separate functions. Otherwise, normally we consider training and development as one function together. That's why T and D is rather than T and D are. Okay, now let us try to understand the difference between training and development. There are three ways of showing differences. Three ways between the two terms, training and development. First way, training is a program designed to give job-related knowledge, skills, and attitudes to employees who are not managerial employees in the organization. Therefore, training is for non-managerial employees. It is a program designed to give job-related knowledge, job-related skills, and job-related attitudes to non-managerial employees in the organization. So here there are knowledge, skills, and attitudes. Knowledge, skills, and attitudes. Right. The development is a program designed to give job-related knowledge, skills, and attitudes to employees who are managerial employees in the organization. Therefore, development is for managers, training is for non-managers. So that is one difference between these two terms. So therefore, training focuses on teaching about methods of using machines and tools, how to repair them, how to do various correspondences, and other work which mainly require physical skills rather than mental skills. Mental skills are mainly needed by managers. Physical skills are mainly needed by non-managers. So development focuses on teaching about decision-making, leadership, communication, motivation, planning, organizing, controlling, and human relations, etc. Because development is for managers. Of course, the sense of management is decision making. Therefore, major work of a manager is to make right decisions. So therefore, development focuses on giving job-related knowledge, skills, and attitudes about decision making, leadership, communication, motivation, planning, organizing, etc. Okay. Now, the second way of differentiating between training and development. The training is the program designed to give knowledge, skills, and attitudes with regard to a certain job or with regard to a certain work. That is training. So, training is the program designed to give knowledge, skills, and attitudes to employees, to managers, also non-managers. That's the program. But the development is the progress occurred within the employee who may be a manager, who may be a non-manager, due to following the training program. So because of the training program, there will be the progress that happens within the employee. That progress is called development. The relevant program that resulted in the progress is called training. Okay. Then third way of differentiating between training and development, making the employee ready to perform the current job is training. Making the employee ready to perform a future job of higher rank is development. So therefore, training is for current job, development is for future job, future job, future job of higher rank. In order to, there are promotions. So then normally we want to develop employees so that they can be promoted to perform jobs of higher rank, better jobs. In that way, they will be able to contribute more to the organization, Look at this figure. T&D is an attempt of increasing employee abilities by giving job-related knowledge, skills, and attitudes. There are three things: knowledge, skills, and attitudes. What is knowledge? Knowledge is for getting information, knowing, and understanding. Knowledge is for getting information, knowing, and understanding. Okay, as far as this lecture is concerned, you are getting principles. You are learning principles. You are learning various concepts. You are learning various methods. Those things come under getting information, knowing. Of course, you are supposed to understand the theories, concepts, principles. So those things come under knowledge. Then skills for doing actually. So then by using that knowledge, you have to work actually. If you are an employee, you have to work. You have to perform. There's a job for you to perform. So then skills for doing actually. For example, consider myself. I have a knowledge of, I am engaging now in teaching. So I have a knowledge about teaching, the principles of teaching, principles of learning, all this. But of course, I have to engage in teaching. Now I am engaging in teaching. For that, I must have the right skills to engage in, to do right teaching. Then the attitudes. Attitudes, an attitude is a psychological thing. An attitude is a psychological thing. So then attitudes are for believing, feeling positively, and tending to behave positively. So the attitudes involve beliefs, then feelings, positive feelings. Of course, ideally, positive feelings. There may be negative feelings also, but we want to have positive feelings and also tending to behave positively. Okay, think of you. So you are now a student. So therefore, you want to learn seriously, assume this human resource management, including this lecture. So therefore, you must have a right attitude about this lecture, about myself as the teacher for you, as far as human resource management is concerned. So, do you believe in this lecture? Do you believe in human resource management? If you do, then you have believing. Then how do you feel about human resource management? Do you feel human resource management positively? If you do, then you have feeling positive. And then how do you tend to behave towards human resource management? So if you are serious, then you tend to behave positively towards human resource management. You tend to learn this one. You tend to listen to this video seriously, and then you want to learn human resource management seriously. Then you will spend hours and hours for learning human resource management by following videos, by following notes, by reading relevant books, at least one book. Okay, so then you have right attitudes, right attitudes. Another, so then what is this knowledge and skills? One good example, take swimming, PNEM, knowledge කියලා කියන්නේ දැනුම, skills කියලා කියන්නේ කුසලතා, attitudes කියලා කියන්නේ ආකල්ප. So what is the difference between knowledge and skills? A simple example, swimming, swimming, PNEM. So you can, so I can teach you 3 definitions of swimming. And I can teach you 5 techniques as well, 5 techniques of swimming. Then I can teach you 5 places where you can do swimming. All these things come under knowledge, not skills. In order to get skills of swimming, of course, you have to be in the water. You have to jump onto the water. You have to be in the water, and then you have to engage in swimming actually. That is skill. That is skill. Okay. Then enhanced performance. Enhanced performance. Employee performance. We want to enhance, and also subsequently we want to enhance organizational performance. If we can improve employee performance, then that will result in increasing organizational performance. So the primary purpose is to increase the organizational performance through enhancing employee performance. Employee performance, right? Okay, so you can see, right? Let us go to another figure. This one. Have a serious look at this. About what is this figure? That is about distinguishing between training and development, differentiating between training and development, differences between training and development. What is this? Yes. Have a serious look. Here the T, training, and here the development. So training is the program to give knowledge, skills, and attitudes to non-managers. So these are non-managers. Then these two, a female manager and a male manager. So managers. So development is the program to give knowledge, skills, and attitude to managers. Okay, that is the first way of making the difference between training and development. Okay, then this is the second way. So I taught you just 3 ways of making differences between training and development. This is the second way. This is training. That's the program designed to give knowledge, skills, and attitudes which are job related. Okay, then here this is the development. What is this? Before the program, number of units produced 50. After the program, the number of units produced 100. There is an increase by 50. There is an increase by 50 units. That is called progress. That is called progress. Okay, so then the progress is the development. with regard to job performance. The progress of job performance is called development. Then the program designed to give knowledge, skills, and attitudes in order to have that progress, that is training. So then training is the course. The development is the effect. Training පුහුණුව කියලා කියන්නේ හේතුව. සංවර්ධනය කියලා කියන්නේ ඵලය. Okay, then this is the third way of differentiating. This is current. Here the current job performance. So training is for current job performance. Here the development, the development. That is for future performance. Future performance. So under development, we deal with increasing capabilities within the employees in order to perform future jobs of higher ranks, higher responsibilities. But under training, we attempt to we deal with increasing capabilities of employees so that they can perform their current jobs successfully. Their current jobs in the way that is expected. Okay. Right. Now, why is training and development necessary? Why is training and development? So these two words we consider as one word or one term, right? The need for training and development is determined by the employee's performance deficiency. Performance deficiency, and it is computed as follows. What is performance deficiency? Standard performance minus actual performance. Pramitha karyapala, satya karyapala, or desires performance, apekshita karyapala, then actual performance, satya karyapala. Assume desired performance in case of a production employee is to produce 100 units of a certain product, but the actual performance, assume that is only 50. Then there is a performance deficiency. There's a performance deficiency minus difference, negative difference. That is 50 units. 50 units. So the performance deficiency. So assume the employee is supposed to do 5 duties. That is the standard performance. Well, actually, the employee perform only 3 duties. Then the performance deficiencies not performing 2 duties. Not performing 2 duties. Okay, so a need for T&D arises if performance deficiencies of the employees in the organization are due to lack of capabilities or abilities. Lack of capabilities or abilities. So there may be several reasons for performance deficiency. One reason is lack of capabilities or abilities. The relevant employee has no right abilities to perform. Then it is possible to have or experience performance deficiency. A good performance evaluation identifies performance deficiencies. So I delivered in fact 2 sessions on performance evaluation. So please learn those 2 sessions, because performance evaluation is a very, very important function of human resource management for the development, for the survival of the organization. So why do performance deficiencies occur? Of course, there are several reasons. There can be several reasons. There may be several reasons such as employee inability, employee demotivation. In some case, So assume you have the ability to learn this lecture, but you have no motivation to learn this lecture. Then it is possible uh, for you to experience performance deficiency. Performance deficiency. Another case, you have the motivation, you have the enthusiasm to learn, to follow this course seriously. But if you don't have the right ability, so again, it is possible to have performance deficiency. Then poor working environment, poor working environment. So assume the employee has the right ability, the employee has the right motivation, employee, instead of employee inability, the employee has the employee ability. Instead of employee demotivation, the employee has the employee motivation. But if there are, no sufficient resources, lack of resources, then it is possible to occur. It is possible for performance deficiency to occur. Right. So if the reason is employee inability, training and development will remove that inability. Training and development will remove that inability. So refer to this figure. It will show how T&D supplements employee capability. Have a serious look. T&D and job demands. Here, there's a balance, there is no balance here. There's no balance between employee capability and job demands. Here there is a balance. Here there is a balance. After T&D, after T&D, there's a balance between employee capability and job demands. So T&D will supplement the capability. This is before T&D, before doing T&D. So here you can see job demands, duties and responsibilities. Consider one particular job that has duties and responsibilities which are to be performed by the relevant employee. But the employee capability is this much. This much, that is capability deficiency, which is missing from the employee. That means the employee has no full capability to perform or to meet job demands, to perform the relevant duties and responsibilities. So therefore, there is no balance. Okay, this is but this one can be removed because of T&D. So if we give T&D, then the employee inability or capability deficiency gets vanished. T&D. Okay, so T&D gives that capability deficiency. Deficiency will be removed by T&D. I hope you understood. Then there's a balance. Okay. Now, purposes of training and development. Purposes we can consider alternatively advantages of training and development. Basically, an employee's job performance depends on his or her ability. So this will include various abilities. Of course, this is a singular term, but the ability, ability can include many abilities, right? Then the motivation. So these are two main factors which determine employee performance, employee job performance. So in addition to the ability and motivation, factors such as organization environment, leadership style, balance between family life and official life, and employee health and stress, there are other factors which determine employee performance. Ability and motivation are two key factors. So it is possible to show that employee performance is a function of these two factors. Look at this one. So formula. EP stands for employee performance. A stands for ability. M stands for motivation. So employee performance is a function of ability, motivation. Okay. So this is the above functional relationship indicates two things. Here the functional, here is a functional relationship. So this functional relationship indicates two things. Employee performance depends on ability and motivation. That is first one. Then the second one, employee performance can be changed by changing ability and motivation of the employee. So therefore, the employee performance depends on ability, also depends on motivation. Depends on motivation. So by changing ability, we can change employee performance. By changing motivation, we can change employee performance. Okay, so then have a serious look at this figure. Effects of T&D. So indeed, T&D directly affects ability and indirectly affects motivation. Affects means increasing. So T&D will increase employee ability directly. T&D. Also T&D will increase employee motivation indirectly. Then increased ability and increased motivation will lead to increased job performance. Increased job performance. Then you must be able to understand the importance of training and development. Importance of training and development. From training and development, we can increase job performance through employee ability, increased employee ability, and increased employee motivation. Okay, right. The purposes of T&D are many. So they can be perceived, as I mentioned earlier, as advantages of T&D. So they are discussed from the point of organization and the point of employees. The following are from the point of the following advantages or purposes from the point of the organization. So that means what are the advantages for the organization? These are to increase the quality of the product due to better understanding and better capabilities. Second one, to increase the quantity of the product. This is quality of the product. This is quantity of the product due to improved understanding and capabilities. Then to increase the productivity due to increased quality and quantity. To reduce wastage, the fourth advantage, because of lowering mistakes, errors, and disorders. Trained employees, well-trained employees will make no mistakes. If they make mistakes, then the number is less. But non-trained employees will make, of course, a lot of mistakes, errors, disorders. Fifth advantage of T&D is to reduce number of accidents and resultant cost because of right working and serious adherence to health and safety requirements. There are various, health and safety requirements to be followed by the employees. So if we give a right training about these things, health and safety requirements to the relevant employees, of course, they will they will not meet with accidents. If they will meet with accidents, the number is less. Then six advantage, numbered 6. to lower the cost of maintenance of equipment and tools because of proper handling. Then to reduce degree of supervision, another advantage, because of improved knowledge, skills and right attitudes acquired by employees who are more dependable and responsible. The supervisor, assume the supervisor has 10 employees who are well trained, then the supervisor doesn't need to take much time, greater time on supervising them, because they know how to work, they know what to do, because they are trained. Then to improve employee motivation, enthusiasm of one employee, that is called motivation. Then to increase employee morale, enthusiasm of group of employees. So motivation, in single abhiprana, morale, chitta dhairya. So chitta dhairya, that is for a group of employees. Motivation abhiprana for an employee, one employee, right? So we can improve both motivation and morale because of training and development. Then to prevent employees from obsolescence. What is this obsolescence? Jalpani, due to modernizing knowledge and skill. That's why we have to, ourselves, we have to make updating. We have to get updating, modernizing knowledge and skills. New knowledge will come. New skills we will have to learn. New knowledge we will have to learn. So then employees also in an organization, they have to learn new knowledge. They have to learn new skills. Because of training and development, that is possible. Right. What is this? That is a figure showing the relationship between training and productivity. Training and productivity. So horizontally you can see training. Vertically you can see productivity. Then this is the curve. This is the curve that is called training productivity curve. Can you understand? There's a positive relationship between productivity and training. Productivity and training. So that means if we increase training, the productivity tends to increase. Okay, assume here the training is here. Then the productivity is at this level. So assume that is 5. Then we increase training here. Then productivity here. Assume it is 10. Then we increase further the training. Okay, then productivity is 15. So likewise, So increased training will result in increased productivity. Increased productivity. Assume other factors will remain constant. Other factors, that will determine productivity. Assume they remain constant. Then if we increase training, we can expect increased productivity. If we reduce training, productivity tends to reduce, right? Look at this figure. That shows the relationship between training and wastage. The relationship between training and wastage is negative. There's a negative relationship between training and development. So vertically you can see training here, then horizontally wastage. So if we increase training, then what will happen to wastage? Training wastage graph. If we increase training, the wastage will get reduced. So assume here the training. That means lesser amount of training. Then the amount of wastage high, greater. Then here assume the training. That means a higher level of training, greater training. Then what will happen to wastage? This much. So the wastage will get reduced. So increased training will result in reduced wastage. Reduced training will result in increased wastage. Okay, right. T&D gives following advantages to employees. Now, from the point of employee, try to understand advantages for employees. advantages for employees. New knowledge and skills. They can get new knowledge and skills because of training. Then they can have higher confidence because they got capabilities. Then they feel like working because they know. Higher confidence. Then higher possibility of getting promoted. So if they know how to do a job of higher rank, then they have the chance of getting promoted. Then higher rewards because of increased knowledge, skills. They can perform many duties. They can perform 2 jobs or additional duties. Then in that way, they will be able to earn higher salaries, incentives, higher rewards. Salaries, increase incentives. Okay. Then the adjustment, different to different situations, they can get adjusted because of training and development. Then more job safety, in case of non-trained employee, there is less job safety, but the employee is a trained one. Normally, the organization doesn't like to terminate a trained employee. Increased motivation and satisfaction. Okay, these are the advantages of training and development from the point of employees. Okay, all right. Now, learning curves and learning principles. Learning curves and learning principles. So I told you that training and development involves giving new learning. Giving new learning. Okay, now remember this one, giving new learning. So T&D provides systematically and formally new learning to employees to increase their capabilities. So because of new learning, they will increase their capabilities. Then increased capabilities will lead to increased current job performance and also increased future job performance. Okay, now what is learning? Proper training results in occurring of learning, which is the process of acquiring knowledge, skills, and attitudes so as to increase a relatively permanent change in learners' behavior. A relatively permanent change in learners' behavior. So proper training results in occurring of learning. What is learning then? That's the process of acquiring knowledge, skills, and attitude so as to create a relatively permanent change in learners' behavior. The learners' behavior, the ඉගෙන ගන්නාගේ චර්යාව, ඉගෙන ගන්න පුද්ගලයාගේ චර්යාව. එම චර්යාවේ සාපේක්ෂව ස්ථාවර වෙනසක් ජනිත කිරීමට බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා ඉගෙනීම තුළින්. ඉගෙනීමෙහි ඇතුළත් වෙනවා දැනුම කුසලතා ආකල්ප ලබා ගැනීම. දැනුම කුසලතා ආකල්ප ලබා ගැනීම ඉගෙන ගන්න පුද්ගලයා තුළ ස්ථිර වෙනසක් ඇති වෙනවා. සාපේක්ෂව ස්ථිර වෙනසක් ඇති වෙනවා. That is learning. So learning is for changing. So you have to change, You have to change because of this learning also. You are learning now. You are listening to me. Then to demonstrate a change, an individual's capabilities must change. To demonstrate a change, an individual's capabilities must change. To change capabilities, the individual must acquire new knowledge, new skills, and new attitudes. New attitudes. Okay. So then there must be a significant positive difference between the learner's previous state before learning something and the learner's post state. Okay. Not the stage, state, tattve. ඒ කියන්නේ ඉගෙන ගන්න පුද්ගලයාගේ කලින් තත්ත්වය ඉගෙන ගන්නට පෙර ඒ වගේම ඉගෙන ගැනීමෙන් පස්සේ learners post state after learning something. So between these two states there must be a significant positive difference. Then we can justify, or we can call that a learning happened. If there is no significant positive difference between the learner's previous state and the learner's post state, then the learning did not happen. Learning did not happen. So now you are learning. So assume before listening to me on this, before listening to me regarding this training and development, assume you didn't have this knowledge. You didn't, you didn't know the definition of T&D, and you didn't know the difference between knowledge and skills. You didn't understand the real meaning of attitudes. You didn't have, you had no that knowledge. Then you had no the knowledge of the purposes of or advantages of training and development. But now you got after listening. That means you have learned. You have learned. So learning has taken place when the learner or the trainee believes in something which he or she has not believed in before. The learning has taken place when the learner appreciates something which he or she has not appreciated before. Assume you did not appreciate training and development. Now you do that. That means learning has occurred. Then the learning has taken place when the learner feels differently about a thing or event, object, compared with the previous way of feeling. So assume previously you felt, negatively about something. But after learning that something, now you feel positively. Learning has happened within you. Then the learning has taken place when the learner knows more than what he or she knew before. The learning has taken place when the learner possesses the skill that he or she did not have before. The learning has taken place when the learner understands what he or she has not understood before. The learning has taken place when the learner makes better decisions compared with previous decision made. Assume we have a manager who made wrong decisions, but he got a special training. Now he can make right decisions. That means the learning has occurred within that manager. That's why the manager can make right decisions now, which he couldn't make before the training. Okay? Right. So therefore, there must be a significant positive difference between the learner's previous state and the learner's post state. This change should be, permanent, relatively permanent. Then වෙනසක් ඇති වුණාම දැන් ඔබ තුල ඔබගේ චර්යාවෙහි වෙනසක් ඇති වුණාම ඒ වෙනස తాවකාලික වෙන්න බෑ. ඒ වෙනස සාපේක්ෂ වශයෙන් ස්ථාවර වෙන්න ඕන. එවැනි තත්ත්වයකදී තමයි අපි කියන්නේ, අපි හිතන්නේ, අපි දකින්නේ ඔබ සැබවින්ම ඉගෙන ගත්තා කියලා. తాවකාලික වශයෙන් වෙනස් වීම සැබෑ ඉගෙන ගැනීමක් නෙවෙයි. ස්ථිර වශයෙන් වෙනස් වෙන්න ඕන. ධනාත්මකව, positively. There must be a permanent change within you. Then you have really learned. Right. Then learning curves. Igenum Wakra, learning curves. So what is a learning curve? A learning curve shows the relationship between level of learning of an individual and time spent on that learning. The learning curve shows the relationship between level of learning of an individual and the time spent on that learning. කියන්නේ පුද්ගලයාගේ ඉගෙනුම් මට්ටම ඒ ඉගෙනීම සඳහා ගත කරන ලද කාලය අතර සම්බන්ධතාවය පෙන්වන වක්‍රය තමයි ඉගෙනුම් වක්‍රය කියලා කියන්නේ. So learning curves indicate speed of learning of individuals. Speed of learning of individuals. There are three typical learning curves according to Professor Hodgetts in 1985 years. There are three learning curves. Typical learning curve. There can be so many learning curves. If there are 100 employees, there may be, it is possible, to have 100 learning curves. But now we are learning common learning curves. There are basically three. The first one, negatively accelerated learning curve. Negatively accelerated learning curve. What is this negatively accelerated learning curve? ඍණාත්මක වශයෙන් accelerated වර්ධනය වෙන ඍණාත්මක වශයෙන් අපි කියමු මේක ඍණාත්මක කඩිනම් ඉගෙනුම් වක්‍රය. Yes, negatively accelerated learning curve. Then this one, positively accelerated learning curve. ධනාත්මක කඩිනම් ඉගෙනුම් වක්‍රය. Then we have here skills acquisition learning curve. නිපුණතා අත්පත් කර ගැනීමේ ඉගෙනුම් වක්‍රය. Okay, first try to learn this one. Negatively accelerated learning curve. So learning occurs very quickly, but as the individual masters the learning material, the rate of learning goes up in a diminishing manner. Learning occurs very quickly. So it shows learning pattern of an individual who has a high initial motivation to learn. So we can expect the learning pattern. So that is okay. Quick learning at the beginning. To learn also, if the learning material is easy to learn, this type of curve more likely occurs. කියන්නේ RM වේදී ඉගෙනීමට ඉහළ අභිප්‍රේරණයක් ඇති. පුද්ගලයන්ගේද පහසුවෙන් ඉගෙනගත හැකි දෙයක් ඉගෙන ගන්නා පුද්ගලයන්ගේද ඉගෙනුම් රටාව මෙම වක්‍රයෙන් පෙන්වුම් කරනු ලැබෙනවා. Okay, look at this figure, then you will be able to understand easily. Negatively accelerated learning curve. So here the level of learning, here the time. So horizontally you can see time, vertically you can see level of learning. Right, then the time passes, then the level of learning. So here you can see at the beginning, level of learning is not that much, yes, very high, quickly. But when the time passes, of course, the total level of learning or the total learning gets increased. When the time passes, the level of learning gets increased, but in a diminishing way. Okay, take a simple example. This is about easy to learn material. Okay. Also initial, the high level of initial motivation, right? Assume you have a high level of initial motivation. And also the learning material is easy to learn. Okay. Within the first hour, you can learn 50 concepts. Then within the second hour, you can learn 40 concepts. Within the third hour, you can learn 20 concepts. Within the fourth hour, okay, first hour 50, second hour 40, third hour 20, then fourth hour 10 as well. So that means, the total learning, of course, will get increased, but the change of learning, is diminishing, Okay. Okay. Take another example, right? Another example. Assume you have a very high level of motivation. You have a very high level of motivation. Then, because you have a high level of motivation, you assume the first lecture in HRM, you understood fully. Then the second lecture, 75%. Third lecture, 50%. Fourth lecture, 35%. Likewise. So then the total, degree of learning, of course, an increased one. It has been increasing. But in the way that is diminishing. The added learning is diminishing. Right. Then the positively accelerated learning curve. So learning starts slowly, but goes up in a rapidly increasing manner when the learning material is absorbed. So it shows the learning pattern of an individual who has a low initial motivation to learn. And also if the learning material is difficult to learn. So this type of learning curve more likely occurs. See look at this figure. Positively accelerated learning curve. Here the level of learning, here the time. So then initially, low level of learning at the beginning. Then when the time passes, then the learning gets increased in an increasing way. Relating to the negatively accelerated learning curve, learning increases in a diminishing way when the time passes. But here, in an increasing way, not in a reducing way. Okay, the first hour, assume the first hour, the learner could learn only 5 concepts. The second hour, 10 concepts. The third hour, within the third hour, 20 concepts. Within the fourth hour, 50 concepts. Sorry. Yes, likewise. Okay. Okay. First hour, 5 concepts. Then during the second hour, 10 concepts. During the third hour, 20 concepts. During the fourth hour, assume 35 concepts the learner could learn. Okay. Relating to lectures, okay, about HRM, let us take. First lecture, assume you couldn't understand anything. In the second lecture, you understood 10%. Third lecture, you understood 30%. Fourth lecture, you understood 60%. Fifth lecture, you understood 90%. Sixth lecture, you understood fully, 100%. So likewise. Okay, right. Then skills acquisition learning curve. Skills acquisition learning curve. This is a special learning curve. So here you can see level of learning, then here time. Okay, so this is the curve. So this one, yes, there is a this one dotted line. Dotted line indicates, so what? It indicates a certain expected amount of learning. Assume as far as your lectures of HRM are concerned, assume at least 13 lectures. That's the knowledge for 13 lectures. So 13 topics, the level of learning, 13 topics. Okay, if you take a clerk, assume training, the word processing ability per minute, assume the expected word processing ability to type 50 words, per minute. That is the expected level of learning. Okay. Within another example, within 1 week, the learner is supposed to learn 10 concepts. That is the expected level of learning. Okay, right. So what is this? A and B. The time passes, then the level of learning. When the time passes, the level of learning tends to increase up to this, up to A. Then the time passes, but level of learning tends to does not tend to increase, does not tend to change. It remains unchanged up to B. From A to B, there is no change of learning, but the time passes. Then after B, point B, when the time passes, again the level of learning gets increased. Okay, so that is the skills acquisition learning curve. The skills acquisition learning curve. What are the this is called, this one, leveling off. Here the leveling off. There's a leveling off or plateau. Plateau, how to spell plateau? P-L-A-T-E-A-U, plateau. වෙනස් වීමක් නැහැ. ස්ථාවරත්වයක් තියෙන plateau. Okay, so what is the reason for this? What is the reason for this? One reason is loss of motivation to learn further. So time passes. Assume 2 months have gone here. Then after 2 months, there's no motivation to learn. That is one reason. Then if there is no motivation to learn, there is no further increasing of learning doesn't happen. Then second reason, the need for synthesis of the early material learned. Synthesis. Again, එකතු කරලා ගන්න. Synthesis. Synthesis of the early material learned. So assume, okay, think of yourself. Learning so many lectures, following so many lectures is difficult. Assume after following 5 lectures, you want to have a rest. That is another reason. But okay, here not the rest. You want to have a break. Okay, what is the second reason? The need for synthesis of the early material learned. So then you want to stop, following further lectures, because you want to learn what you have learned from the lectures that you took. For that, you have to stop learning. Right? Then taking rest is another reason. When you get tired, because of learning, then you want to stop further learning because you want to have a rest. That is another reason for this plateau. Right. Another reason, the need to eliminate any incorrect learning that has occurred. So assume you don't know whether your learning, certain parts of your learning are wrong. You don't know, but you want to make sure that what are the parts wrongly learned. So what are the parts correctly learned? Wrongly learned. You want to know. So therefore, you have to go back what you have learned in order to check whether your learning is right or wrong. For that, you have to stop further learning. Okay, that's another reason for this plateau. Okay, so then which learning curve out of the above three is the most common? Is the most common? The skills acquisition learning curve is the most common in adult learning. So employees are adults. Employees are adults. They are not children. So therefore, the skills acquisition learning curve is the most common in adult learning. So it is possible to note that every employee in the organization has a separate learning curve, even though we we have learned three common types. So it is possible that every employee can have his own separate learning curve. So according to Professor Werther and Professor Davis, the trainer should have two goals related to the shape of each employee's learning curve. Two goals. This one, the first one, the trainer wants the learning curve of the trainee to reach a satisfactory level of performance. The trainer wants the learning curve of the trainee to reach a satisfactory level of performance. Here the satisfactory level. Here the satisfactory level. The trainer or the relevant manager or the human resource manager who is in charge of training a particular employee. So therefore the trainer is supposed to get, the trainer is supposed to get the learning of the trainee to this point, to this point, to this point. And then the second goal or the second goal, right? The trainer wants the learning curve to get to the satisfactory level as quickly as possible. As quickly as possible. Without taking much time. There's a need of, there's a need of obtaining efficiency without wasting time. Without wasting time. Okay, take this example right here. I think yes. For example, consider relevant salesman is supposed to sell 5 products. Then the relevant salesman is supposed to know the relevant information about the 5 products. Now, that is the satisfactory level of performance. That is the satisfactory level of performance. So then learning curve of the employee should be reached to the satisfactory level of performance, and that learning needs to be given within a minimum right time without taking much time, without wasting time. Let us assume, or let us take a word process. Okay, this salesman, right? This salesman is supposed to get the relevant information about 5 products. Assume in order to get the relevant information, in order to learn the relevant information about these 5 products, it will take, assume, 1 week. 1 week. So then within 1 week, we have to achieve this reaching, and we have to achieve reaching the expected level of learning within 1 week, rather than taking 2 weeks, rather than taking 3 weeks. So we can reach this level by taking 2 weeks, by taking 1 week, by taking 3 weeks. But ideally, we have to reach this level. That means the relevant salesman must be able to get the relevant information about the 5 products within 1 week. 2 goals. 2 goals. So then, what is the use of skills acquisition learning curve? At least there are 2 uses. 2 uses. So these are the 2 uses. The trainer wants the learning curve of the trainee to reach a satisfactory level of performance. There must be a satisfactory level of performance for training, right? Then the satisfactory level has to be acquired as quickly as possible, right? Now, learning principles. Learning principles. Learning principles. Genu Muladaram. Learning principles are guidelines to be followed to develop a more successful training program. So they are the guidelines to the ways in which people learn more effectively. කියන්නේ වඩාත් ඵලදායීව පුද්ගලයන්ට ඉගෙනීමට ආධාර වන මඟ පෙන්වීම් සමූහයක්. ඉගෙනුම් මූලධර්ම වලින් ගෙනහැර දැක්වෙනවා. Okay, so then education is a process of teaching and learning. Education is a process. So there is teaching, there is learning within education, right? Now you are dealing with education, so you are learning, I am teaching. So education is a process of teaching and learning. So learning principles will direct to develop a better program of education. Better program of education. So then in case of training, yes, we have to use these learning principles to make training better. To make training better, at least to make training good. The more these principles are included in training, the more effective training is likely to be. Hence, it is important to develop a training program that will include these learning principles. Learning principles. What are these learning principles? Okay, here are principles of learning. Participation, the first one, in single Sabhagitva. Trainees must be allowed to participate in the act of learning, being active rather than being passive. Rather than being passive. Active, if there is active participation of the learner, that will enable the learner to learn quicker. And that learning will last for a longer time. So take yourself, you are the learner. So then you should be, rather than being passive, you should be active. You have, you should be allowed to listen to, you should be allowed to read, you should be allowed to go to the library, you should be allowed to do exercises, for effective learning. So likewise, trainees also should be allowed to participate in the act of learning. In the act of learning, they should be, okay, for example, assume we are training employees on how to conduct a performance evaluation discussion. Performance evaluation discussion. It is possible to give a case of conducting a discussion of performance evaluation to do a role play. Role play, I think now you may not understand, so I will teach you about role play. It is a training technique. It's a training technique. Okay, let us take the salesman, right? We are training salespeople. Then we have to allow salespeople to get information about the products rather than giving. Okay, we can give the information. One trainer can give the information about the products to be sold, and also the additional information we can ask the relevant trainees to find out himself or herself. Active learning. Then the second principle is repetition. So what is repetition in Sinhala? Punaruktiya. Training must provide an opportunity to trainees to repeat what they have learned. Repeat, because of repeating, the person will be able to remember. So in your case also, if you repeat listening to the video, if you repeat reading the note, of course, you will be able to learn more. Reading the note for one time, listening to the video for one time is not sufficient for real learning, better learning. So therefore, training must provide an opportunity to trainees to repeat what they have learned. several times, 2 times, 3 times, we can discuss about the same thing, about the same thing. So repetition is a good principle of learning. Then relevance, adalat. Material presented needs to be meaningful. Material presented needs to be meaningful. So what is being learned is to be related to what the learner is supposed to do. Assume the learner is supposed to do selling, then the material should be, material presented during the training should be related to selling, not to something else, not to something else. If you are training employees on how to do interviews to select the right people, then the material should be relating to interviewing, relevance. Okay, think of this teaching, think of this teaching. So I am teaching human resource management. Is there relevance of what I am teaching, what you are learning? Of course, you will understand that there's a high level of relevance. There's a high level of relevance to many, the material is indeed about managing people, not so about something else. Okay, principle 4, transference. Igenum tiroharani. What the learner learns in the training must be possible to transfer to actual working on the job. Igenima පුහුණු අවස්ථාවෙන් රැකියා අවස්ථාවට මාරු කිරීම කළ යුතුයි. පුහුණු වැඩසටහනේ අන්තර්ගතය රැකියාවේ අන්තර්ගතය අතර තරම් වෙනසක් නැත්නම් නැතොත් බෙහෙවින්ම සමාන නම් රැකියාව පිළිබඳ සාර්ථක ප්‍රවීණත්වයක් ඉක්මනින්ම ඉගෙන ගන්නට ලබා ගන්නට පුළුවන්. What the person is supposed to perform. The trainee, the trainee after training is supposed to perform a certain job. So then what the trainee is learning under the training program is similar to what the employee is supposed to perform, then the training will be successful. So the transference, so after learning, the trainee is, or after finishing the trainee is supposed to go to the work and then supposed to perform by using what the trainee has learned. So this principles of transference is closely related to relevance. So when there is relevance, that means when the learning material is relevant, then it is easy to do transference. The transference will be successful if there is high level of relevance relating to the learning material. So training programs should have conditions identical to those in the actual job situation. Then transference will become easy. So assume the employee has to use certain tools and equipment when doing the job. Then during the training also we have to use the same tools and equipment. Then it is easy. To use them when actually allowing the employee to perform the job. Next learning principle, that is feedback, pratiposhana. Trainee should be given information about his or her progress of learning due to training. The trainer can simply tell how well the trainee is doing. Feedback gives the learner information about his or her progress on learning. The weaknesses, then the strengths of the learner can be given through feedback. So feedback is a very important principles of learning. The learner, it is possible for the learner to make mistakes. Then when the learner makes mistakes, then the trainer should identify them and then should inform the relevant learner about the mistakes so that the learner can learn them, and through mistakes, the learner can improve towards, learning right things, right? Then practice, bhavite. That is another principle. Trainees should be allowed to practice what they have learned, what they have learned. Then, of course, the trainee will be able to utilize what he or she has learned from training. Trainee should be allowed to practice what they have learned. Then, principle 7, motivation. Trainee must be stimulated to learn. Kind of enthusiasm, the learner should be enthusiastic to learn. Maybe by giving a financial reward, or by giving hope for getting a promotion. It is possible to motivate trainees to learn. Okay, next principle, reinforcement. Trainee must be rewarded for the new behavior acquired from the training so as to strengthen it. For example, if the employee learns an additional language, he or she is given a special salary increment. So it will strengthen learning the language, and it may encourage the employee to learn another language. Now that is reinforcement. So in Sinhala, upastambani. What is upastambani? Upastambani yanu dirigenwima. So yam igenima sarthakව නිම කළ පසු ඒ සඳහා ඉගෙනුම ලැබූ අයට ප්‍රධාන ත්‍යාග දී යුතු බව උපස්තම්භන මූලධර්මයේ අදහස් වෙනවා. Okay, so then the learning is an expected thing. It is a positive thing that has to be encouraged further and further. For that, this principle is indeed contribution. Contribute. Okay, next principle, intensity. Training should be made greater in amount or degree. Principles of intensity refer to that teaching of something is to be done in the way that penetrates the learner in a greater degree or amount. So තීව්‍රතාවය යන්නේ අදහස් කරන්නේ උගන්වන දේ අතිශයින් කාවා දින අයුරින් ඉදිරිපත් කළ යුතු බව. අතිශයින් කාවා දින අයුරින් ඉදිරිපත් කළ යුතු බව. Okay, if you take an example, right? Assume our training involves teaching about a machine. Level 1, we can give a description about the machine. Level 2, we can give a description about the machine by using several pictures of the machine. Then the level 3, we can show an actual machine, and then we can give that actual machine to the trainee to touch, to operate. That's the third level. So as far as the degree of, as far as these 3 levels are concerned, the third level has the highest level of intensity. Another simple example. Assume I am teaching about butterflies to you. So then the first level is I can give definitions about butterflies and describe various characteristics of butterflies. In the second level, so I can give such descriptions by showing several pictures of butterflies. Then the third level, I can take you to outside, to a land, to a garden, and then I can allow you to see actual butterflies, then feel them, touch them. Okay, that's the third level. Third level is having the highest level of intensity. That is the best for effective learning. Effective learning. So as far as you are teaching, teaching HRM, our teaching, not your teaching, right? So my teaching and your learning about HRM. So we also try to increase the intensity of our learning by giving notes, by giving various examples, by giving cases, critical incidents, skill builders. Of course, yet you have not done cases, critical incidents, and skill builders, but we expect to do them seriously after after meeting you in person, hopefully, hopefully. So then by giving cases, critical incidents, and skill builders, we expect to increase the intensity of our teaching, the intensity of your learning. Okay, right. This is the end of the first session with regard to this topic, training and development.